Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, we're here at Ultramarine and BassBoatElectronics.com in Knoxville, and we're stocking up on some of our maintenance items here. I like to do all my maintenance on my Mercury 250 Pro XS. You guys know that because I've done a bunch of videos on oil changes, fuel filter changes, lower unit changes, all that stuff. And so I always like to have all those parts and fluids on hand. So what I wanted to do today is just show you the different items that I keep on hand to be able to perform those maintenance items throughout the year. And I like to have spare parts, because occasionally, yeah, you're looking at the maintenance schedule and it may say that you need it every 100 hours, but sometimes you may need to change out like a fuel filter or something like that. You get some bad fuel, it's just not running right, and you want to, eliminate that as a possibility, keep something like that on hand. So anyways, let's go ahead and walk through. Since we're already talking about fuel filters, let's talk about the water separating fuel filter. This is one that I keep a couple on hand at all times. I even carry one of these on the road because I have had instances where, I've had a boat that ended up, fouling up one of these filters, in a tournament situation, during a tournament week. It was during practice. And so I wanted to swap it out. It's super easy. I did a video on it. You don't even really need a video to figure this thing out. Very, very simple to replace, but this is definitely one that I like to keep not only in my shop, but also on the road. This is one that, if you don't have a shop around, and usually, we don't have shops that are generally open, at the hours that we really need them, because we're fishing all day and then you get off the water late. So be your own shop and keep one of these on hand on the road. They're not super expensive, but the fuel filter is definitely one that I keep, with me on the road and in the shop. So that's one of them. So let's get into kind of like oil change mode. So there's a couple different ways that you can approach oil changes with your Mercury engine. You can, piece everything together, one piece at a time. Get your oil. Like, this is the oil that I like to use with my Mercury engine. 10W30 is a good all-around oil weight for these engines. I use the synthetic blend, so I keep a bunch of those on hand. Again, I usually keep at least one of these gallons with me in the truck, and I will oftentimes take a quart size with me in the boat. So just make sure you have those on hand. I usually have a bunch of cases of them at the house because I know I'm going to be doing a bunch of oil changes throughout the year. Another thing that I keep on hand when it comes to oil change is I always have a bunch of these oil filters. So the oil filters, obviously that's a big part of the whole oil change process. If you want to do it right, you got to change out your oil filter. I keep these. The last four digits of the model number is 3025 for the engine that I've got. Obviously, you got to, check it out, talk to the guys here at Ultramarine or your dealership to figure out which filter is right for your engine. But keep some of these on hand. Again, 2 is 1, 1 is none. So always, all these things I have at least 2 on hand whenever possible. So you've got oil. You've got your oil filters. That pretty much handles the oil change for your engine. But let's also talk about the gear case. So usually when you're changing the oil, you want to also change your gear case fluid too. So this is really important. So one of the first things, I'll actually get both things here. So a couple things to keep in mind is that I guess you could reuse the seals on the lower unit, drain plugs, but I would never suggest you reusing those seals, okay? I've seen some people do that, but I really don't think that that's a good idea. So I end up keeping a bunch of these. I'm actually going to buy 3, maybe even 4 little packets of these little clamshells. There's 4 of these in there. These are worth their weight in gold, man. Because even if I'm checking the lower unit fluid and I'm not necessarily changing it, I will always change out that seal. You just do not want to risk using a compromised seal on your lower unit. So I carry a bunch of these. I mean, I don't even feel safe without, you know, having like 6 of these little drain plug seals on hand. So these are something you need to keep with you on the road. If you're fishing tournaments, this needs to be part of your spare parts toolbox, because again, if you get some line behind your prop, around your prop shaft, and you take off that prop and you find that, man, some of that line seemed to get behind that seal a little bit, I want to check it to see if there's any water intrusion. If you pull your seals, your plugs, this is a really good idea to just go ahead and have some of these on hand to put in there. So I have found, so these are like kind of those rubberized, the yellow ones are the ones that I like. There's some blue ones, but those just seem to like separate. They seem to delaminate a little bit. So I don't really like those as much, but these yellow rubber ones, I think it's the same blue seals, but just has like a rubberized coating on it. I don't know, but these are the exact ones that I like to use. These are all here at Ultramarine, obviously, because we're here. And then, of course, you have your gear lube. You know, the 90 weight, you know, Mercury gear lube is what I use in my engine. Doesn't take that much. It really takes about half of this nowadays in the engine that I've got. Used to be that it took pretty much all of this and like a quarter of another bottle. So not a whole lot of fluid goes into the lower units on the Pro XSs nowadays. But the 90 weight is something that, again, I keep a bunch on hand, because you're going to be, you know, I generally, when I'm filling my lower unit, I will pump extra in it. I'll keep pumping until, you know, I don't get as many like air bubbles and stuff in there. And so I end up using a little bit extra than I need. So definitely having these, big deal. 24C grease. This is something I use for everything. All of the Zerk fittings, the oil fit or the grease fittings, and for my prop shaft, when I'm taking off the prop and putting a new one back on or the same one back on, I always lube it up with 24C. This is just a good all-around marine grease. I always have a little a tube of this in the boat, so make sure you got some of that. And they also come in, you know, if you've got a actual grease gun, they've got that. Okay, so we've talked about all of that stuff. So let's look at the easy way to do an oil change. So if you don't want to like piece everything together, which there's a benefit to piecing it all together if you're you know, on the road and you just want spare parts and spare fluids and all those things, you know, I like having those on hand. But for like those regular maintenance opportunities, you know, when you get home and in the garage, this is super nice. Having everything in this box. You got the tubing that makes everything mess free. You got the oil filter. You got all your oil, all that stuff in one box. So these oil change kits are really awesome. I love using these because there's just no questioning it. Everything is in here. So you got to check that out for, you know, keeping 1 or 2 of those on hand in your garage covers you for pretty much the entire year, depending on, you know, how many hours you're putting on it. But that makes everything pretty easy and carefree. Do we have a lower unit change kit? I don't know if they do that. All right, so another thing before we go that I also keep on hand, I keep a couple of these in the boat. Again, a little bit somewhat overkill, but you need to have a spare hub. Okay, you have to have a spare hub assembly kit. Okay, you know, if you're carrying a spare prop but you don't have a spare hub for that prop, that's a problem. because number one, if it's a hub that, you know, has the rubber, you know, hub component that you have to press into the prop, it's going to be hard, if not impossible, to get that other hub out of that engine or that prop and put it into the next one. It's actually easier to put it into a prop. All you have to do is like lube it up with some 2,4-C, and then as you're tightening it onto the prop shaft, it should seat itself correctly if you tighten it enough. But getting it out of that is a big deal. So you have to carry one of these in the boat. I carry one in the boat as well as in my truck when I'm on the road. And yeah, and then maybe even one in the garage. So again, I'm a little bit more overkill than a lot of guys, but those are the items that I carry with me on a regular basis. I mean, I think it's super important to just be prepared for as many things as you possibly can, and obviously maintaining your engine is like so important. But the great thing is Mercury makes it super easy to be able to work on your engine by yourself, you know, to change your oil, to change your lower unit fluid, to change the filters. All that stuff is super simple. It's never been easier. It's definitely never been easier to check your oil, because at the top of your engine you got that little hatch. So there's so many reasons why you should be doing this, and at least have an understanding of how to do it, so if you're on the road you can handle it yourself. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. I'm going to put links to everything we talked about today, including the all-in-one oil change kits, which I think are kind of the star of all this. If you're looking to do your own maintenance, I'll put all those links in the description below, so check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'll see you out on the water. Trust the process.